Welcome back, guys, to the Northeast Florida Surf Fishing Forecast. We're on a little bit earlier, not in the midnight hour. Hope everyone's had a great couple of days. And if you don't know it by now, Mr. Pompano has started to arrive in the Northeast Florida area. A week ago there was one or two here, but now there's actually been several limits being caught. The water was actually very clean in Northeast Florida the last 3 days. It changed. Thursday morning we had the front coming through. Wind switched over to the southeast. At one point I looked, it was southeast at 25. And if you've been with our channel for any amount of time, you know what we say about the south wind here in Northeast Florida is it will dirty up the water in a hurry. I saw pictures from this afternoon, and it had gotten pretty dirty compared to what it was. I mean, it was crystal clear, but with a good chop the last few days, and the Pompano are biting up and down the coast here in our area. What are they hitting? Clam, crab knuckles, sand fleas, live ones preferably if you can catch them. They're been a little bit harder to find. It really takes a lot of determination right now to find them. I've been finding them on the first 2 hours in of the outgoing tide. And then right after the tide turns is when I've been finding them, those two different times. And it does help. It seems to find them is when we have a east wind. When it's a west wind, a little bit more difficult to find. I'm not sure what it is about a west wind that pushes them down deep, but it certainly, last few weeks when we've had the west wind and clean water, they've been extremely hard to find. Something that's not hard to find, guys, is the finger mullet. They have been thick in the surf again this week, and with this cold front pushing through, as that cold air starts to hit, it's going to start to push a lot more mullet out of the river. So I imagine, boy, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, one of those days, we're going to see the long streams of mullet coming out of the river again, and everything's going to be following them again. Spanish, blues, speckled trout, flounder, of course, that we got to throw back, redfish, probably some tarpon. Water temperature is still around 78, 79 in Jack's Beach. Same in Flagler, and down 80, or I should say Fernandina is still around 79. Flagler, 80 degrees still. Like I said, the fish are starting to come up. You got to remember, how you doing from Central Florida? How's the fishing down there? Let me know. We'll give a little update. Since I really don't have anybody who comments from down there and lets us know what's going on. But the fish are coming. You know, what we're catching now is a result of water temperatures north of us getting colder. And so we're supposed to be in the mid 50s, like upper 60s, low 70s for a high. But those mid 50s for the next, I think, 4 days will definitely drop the water temperature. Okay, Flagler's a good beach. It's a lovely beach, honestly. Has a nice little trough, usually sand fleas galore. The pier's a good pier too, and I think I just read they're actually going to rebuild the pier 800 foot out of concrete. Good luck to you guys, because our Jack's Beach pier is made out of concrete, and you've seen it has been damaged since 2016, and they're finally, just this week, it looks like they're pretty much at the end now of where we call the T section, which is the end. So hopefully only, I'm just guessing 8 to 10 pylons left to put in, and then the fun starts. Yes, Virgil, we all do, bud. Flagler and Jack's Pier, there's a lot of good fish to be caught from piers, and it's a lot cheaper than a boat. Not all of us can afford a boat and everything that entails. What did they say a boat stands for? Break out another 1,000. Yeah, a few people I know lately have been dealing with some pretty severe boat issues. But anyways, fish are showing up, and I expect next week we should have a good amount of pompano starting to show up, because if the lows here will be Northeast Florida area mid 50s, and the Carolinas north and south, it's probably going to be 40s, 30s. That'll really push those pomps this way. Some decent whiting came up the last few days. You know, I saw a few pictures of 14, 15-inch whiting, good sized fish. Like I said, redfish, black drum, bluefish, speckled trout. There are a lot of trout cruising our surf right now, but bring out the measuring stick because about 95% of them are running about 14.5 inches for whatever reason. A lot of small ones. The winds, guys, Friday, west, southwest, west, you know, in that area, 15 to 25. So I expect it to still stay pretty dirty here in Northeast Florida and probably even further south of here. That west wind after a south will be dirty. Saturday, west 10 to 20, and then Sunday, northwest 8 to 10. So it's a lot of west. The surf should come down quite drastically with this west wind, and that should help smooth it out, make it a lot easier to cast. But our main concern is, will the water clean up? You know, this time of year, when the fish are pushing south, clean water, regardless of flat or you know, 2 to 3 foot surf, those fish are eating because they're getting ready for the winter. So it's not like in the middle of summer when we get those calm, flat west wind days where, boy, it's sometimes impossible to give away a bait. It changes a little bit in the fall as that water temperature drops. Those fish are really put into an aggressive feeding mode. So I mentioned I was gonna show you some of the beads and floats that I use. You know, there's a lot of them, but my personal favorite is got a little orange. See how bright that is? Little teardrop float. And then just the straight yellow. I use more of the orange though. In the spring, I caught more whiting and pompano on this orange than the yellow. In fact, I went through quite a few of the oranges because the the whiting were actually chewing up the float. By the time after a 2 or 3 hour session of surf fishing, most of these orange floats I had on my dropper rigs were solid white where all the orange had been chipped off. The beads, if you can see that, it's a little salmon colored bead I use. And then just this little white one. They're glow beads, so in the water, yeah, Mortician Rig is awesome, and the sinker guy, he is the man. Me and him are good friends. His videos are awesome on how to make rigs, man. He makes it to where anyone who hasn't tied a rig before can understand how to tie it. Now he has some beads, and I need to get some, or I'll have to go to Hobby Lobby. I think that's where he went. If you don't know it, Hobby Lobby has a great variety of different colored beads. What you want to do is, whatever area of surf fishing you're doing, look for little coquina clams, donacs, whichever you want to call them, the predominant color. In some areas you'll find a lot of like purplish color ones, and other areas that like light yellowish, or sometimes they're just all mixed. But man, he found some glass beads at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if you saw them, guys. It was on his Facebook Live, I believe. And it was a purple color, and he actually compared the shell of the clam with the beads, and it was spot on. So remember, you want to match the hatch, as they say. So the closer you get to the natural bait, the better with these beads and floats. That orange float coupled with a sand flea, man, that pompano or whiting's coming along. He probably thinks he has a mega sand flea full of eggs. And on our YouTube, I put a little clip up, I think it's about 15 seconds long, of how to hook sand fleas. The last few weeks, I've seen some people hooking them through the side and backwards. And the main thing is that little flap on the underside that actually protects the eggs. That's where you want to put the hook through. If you don't, those fish, a lot of times they'll just eat the eggs out and continue to move on. They got their buffet, and now they're on to the next. But fishing should get... Virgil, they're coming, man. They're coming. I know there's being some caught in the river into deeper water, but that water, I was looking back on my records from last year, and end of October, and then about, man, it was end of October all the way through about middle of December, caught a lot of drum in the surf. Water temperature was around that 72, 70 degree range, and of course, that's what they love, man. and there are plenty of sand fleas, so I'm hoping those sand fleas will still show up. We'll see. But if you haven't done it, you can check out our Facebook page if you're on Facebook. I'm not forcing anyone to go there because I know, I mean, if I wasn't having a fishing group, I probably would avoid Facebook as well. But if you're on it, Broken Reel 23 on Facebook as well. And we get daily reports. We got people posting all up and down the beach, water conditions and what's biting. And we try to do that on our YouTube page as well. Yes, Virgil, if you can find a good school of sand fleas, and I suggest this for anyone else, and you want to fish for sand fleas as it cools down and you can't find them, you get a good school, go ahead and freeze you some up. Last year, I tried a few different methods. Noel Kuhn had a good method on how to freeze them by making like a saltwater brine. That worked. And I also had good luck just buying the little Ziploc freezer containers and putting about 30, 40 fleas in it and filling it with salt water right from the beach and just putting it in the freezer like that. And they thawed out and bam. I mean, and when I'm freezing them, I'm not planning on freezing these guys for several months. I usually use them within a month or two of freezing them. So the sooner you use them after freezing them, the better they're gonna be. Same with the shrimp. Yeah, the saltier the better. Yeah, just don't use no tap water, okay? Don't use no tap water. All that chlorine and fluoride and all of that, that's no good for them. Yes, Marcio, native salt is excellent. In fact, I would rather use those than having to buy a dozen clams at, whether they're like $5.99, $6.99. Native salt baits work great. Their clam is awesome. And it saves you the work of having to crack them. When you get on the beach, all you gotta do is straight up pull it out of the bag and fish. And Killian is a good man. I'm glad he's got back in business, and yeah, we're gonna try to support him. And he was at our last seminar supporting us. He gave away some free product. So yeah, we like to help local guys, help them sell their stuff, because it's not garbage. The stuff they're selling is stuff we actually use. Same with fish bites. If you don't know it, most people know I am a predominantly live bait fisherman. However, I do have packs of that coquina clam, and in the spring that worked really well, tipping it with the real clam and such. But if you don't know it, Fish Bites does a tremendous amount in the local community for tournaments, for charities, and so they're well worth it to support. And a lot of people catch fish on their Fish Bite, so you better stock up on that coquina clam. So that's a good bait. And if you look at it, you put that on there with some native salt bait too. If they happen to get that real clam off, they're still chewing on that fish bite and then they're getting hooked. And the hooks I use, I'm sure there's a few videos I've shown it, but is that Eagle Claw Circle C, I believe. It's just a little silver circle hook. That's what Larry the Fishman Fish uses. Marcio, I haven't really used fish gum too much, but I've heard a few people mention some good things about it. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of options out there to use. And like I tell people, we sometimes especially on social media, we get into this of, well, I use this bait, I use this bait. You know what? It all comes out of this. Use whatever bait that you feel most comfortable with and what's catching you fish. That's all it comes down to. I'm not in a bidding war to try to get somebody to use this bait or that bait. I just want to tell them, hey, this is what they're hitting, what I'm hearing they're hitting, what tide they're hitting, and go catch the fish. And the main thing is we put up that video again on our YouTube about how to spot where the fish, a lot of times, the main things when you go fishing, guys, proper rigs, proper bait, and spot the fish. Those three things, if you can get those nailed pretty good, that's gonna usually lead to a better day of fishing versus coming home empty-handed or coming home with a cooler full of saltwater groceries. Because right now, if you haven't checked the prices in the seafood markets and the stores, my goodness, they're skyrocketing. And if you like flounder, I suggest you wait another month, because I think I saw it was like $21.99 a pound somewhere. And who knows how old that fish is, how long it was frozen or whatnot. I honestly try to stay away from buying any fish unless it's at an actual market. Like here in Northeast Florida, we got like Safe Harbor. We know the fish are coming in off of boats, local, most of the time local fishermen. So no problem. I want to see the fish before it's clean. Usually when it's just a showcase full of fillets, I'm very skeptical of where that fish came from. Might be farm raised, blah, blah, blah. That's why all of us guys and girls who fish here in Northeast Florida, Central Florida, and we can fish the ocean. To me, there's no better taste in fish than fish that are caught right from the surf. Our river produces some good eating fish, but man, eating a trout from the surf versus a trout from the river, to me, the taste is so much better. But that's just me. Maybe, what do you guys think? That's what it seems like to me. But next week, guys, man, I'm really looking forward to some really great reports of these fish coming in. In fact, yes, what's up, Mims? I'm about tired of the mangroves. They're driving me nuts when I'm fishing for the snook because they'll get to the shrimp before the snook do. But they're still around. I had some 13, 14 inchers, I want to say Tuesday. For me personally, mud minnows work really well. If you can find small finger mullet and shrimp. Oh yeah, whiting's great. One of my favorite. The live shrimp. So if you're fishing for the mangroves, you want to use the smaller live shrimp, mud minnows, and just be patient because let me tell you something. They absolutely love mud minnows, but my goodness, they will grab it. You'll feel the thump. You'll set the hook and they'll just spit it out. And the mud minnows, if you don't know it, guys, these things are like tanks. They'll last longer than a mullet and they'll be in shreds and still somehow be breathing. And what you want to look for is rocks. So any of the bridges, anywhere along our intercoastal St. John's where there's bridges and structure, they hang around. And usually when you find one big one, there'll be a few more. So if you're just pulling up a ton of 5 and 6 inchers, move. Don't stay in the same spot because you're just going to keep throwing them back. And right now, as the water starts to cool down in the river, if you can find spots closer to the inlets, you're going to probably find the bigger fish as they start to make their way out. Because when the water drops in the river down to, if it does get to the 60s, low 70s, boy, there's not as many mangroves biting. So they really slow down after it cools down. But yeah, I've been using just a float rig with I think it's a number 4 circle hook, and that works pretty good on them. I've also caught quite a few nice mangroves just simply free lining it in the areas. So if you find structure, when you find those little eddies, free lining a shrimp in the eddies, I'll simply using a very small barrel swivel attached to lines. What's up, Brim Bass and Beyond? It's going, man. That cold front came through and we're all in hopeful anticipation of what's to come, right? But I use that small swivel, and I usually use, because I'm fishing for snook, I have 30-pound leader, but about a month ago, 2 months ago, I was using 15-pound leader, and it was catching so many nice mangroves. And I noticed now that I've gone up in the strength of the leader, because a snook and 15-pound leader don't mix well. They usually cut it. But that 15 works so much better than the 30 to get the mangroves. They got very good eyesight. In fact, one of the areas I fish, you can see the school of them, and they'll hit out away. You won't even know it, and they'll actually be back under your foot, under the structure before you know it. They're hitting it so fast. Flagler, it should be flat down there too. I think west wind's down there. We'll try to, yes, snook are now one of my favorites. I love that fish. Such a strong fish. Absolutely, that big broad tail, man, they really put some power into that run when they take off. Flagler, I would say we check, you know what? Because I don't have any sources down there that can say, hey, this is the water. Though Kathy Sanders, she may be able to help me. call the Flagler Pier. You don't have to fish it, but call the Flagler Pier, and that might be well. Call them and ask them how the water looks tomorrow. Because I'll try to get down to the beach here in Northeast Florida, around Jacksonville Beach, tomorrow afternoon to get a water report, because we'll see. Just like further south, there's been a lot of seaweed coming up. We haven't had any up here, so it's sort of hard to guess what's going to be going on down there. You know what I mean? I hate to say, hey, it's going to be clean, and you get there and it's going to be dirty, because that happens up here around the inlets. On the north side of the inlets up here, the water tends to be cleaner than everywhere else. Oh yeah, and yeah, Jude, Cowboys, man, they're playing well this year. Yeah, it was blowing strong southwest and switched over to the northwest, so you should be able to, hopefully, Marcio, if it's clean, I think you'll get some pompano. I mean, if you got a cast net, bring your cast net, because there's mullet all in the surf, and those reds are following them. My buddy had 2 reds Wednesday afternoon, a 32 and a 30, fishing with mullet from the surf on a Carolina rig. So, and he also caught a big flounder that had to go back. Let's just hope this flounder closure, man, we're going to see some great results as far as fish numbers during the open season. I mean, it can't hurt. We'll have to do a video, because there's a couple ways you can throw the net. I'm one of the guys that puts the part of the cast net in my mouth to throw it. Probably not the best way to do it, but that's how I do it. And there's another way where you never have to do that. And we'll try to get a video of both ways. Jason, I have not seen the big clams. The only place I would call is Larry Finch's store. 904-642-6340. He tends to get them in, and they'll last a while. If you can't fish the day you get them, I've bought 3 or 4 dozen at a time before, and they've lasted me 2 weeks. The main thing is you keep them cool, and you keep them out of water. You don't want them to sit in any water. So if you put them in your cooler, make sure they're not sitting in the melted ice water, because that'll actually kill them. Yes, Marcia. Yep. I don't blame you. Not to mention, I've seen it happen a few times where people go to put it in their mouth, and there was a jellyfish. And the worst time I've ever seen with a cast net, it made me cringe. I don't know if you know what those mantis shrimp are. They're nasty shrimp, and they look like a cross between a lobster and a praying mantis. And they got 2 little poppers that will hurt the guy. Put the net in his mouth, and the mantis shrimp was right there, popped him in his lips. I mean, you talk about a scream. I was young, and I couldn't, I thought it was just a big shrimp in his net. It was a big mantis shrimp, and it lit the guy up, poor guy. He probably didn't throw a net for a while after that. But I think that's all we got. Hopefully everybody gets out and fish, enjoys this cooler weather, and hopefully the fish cooperate and show up in some numbers in the next week. If you got any questions, yeah, man, it was real bad. If you got questions, leave them in our comments, and I'll get back to them. I got a few comments I need to answer. I'll probably get to that tomorrow. I need to get to sleep. I'm tired, guys. Got to get my yards done. I'm a landscaper, so got to get my catch up. You know, it rained most of the day here, so I didn't get much done. So tomorrow I'll be moving fast, trying to get all of this caught up so I can fish too. You're welcome, Marcia. I love helping others out. I mean, paying it forward, man. I was taught as a kid how to target these certain fish, and I wasn't born out of the womb knowing how to fish. I can guarantee you that. Yep, me and Chip, I think we've been discussing as well, come November, probably towards the end of November, having one more seminar for the end of the year, and just to discuss a few things, mainly pompano, because November is a good month for pompano, and what to fish for in the winter, because things do change as it cools down, but there's still fish to be caught. So until next time, guys, tight lines, and I'll try to get a video. If I get done with work early enough on Friday, I'll get out there and get a water report video live from the beach. If not, we'll figure it out. So y'all have a great day. You too, man. Go Cowboys. I'll catch y'all later.